Good morning, everybody. Oh, I am so looking forward to the treat of having Isabel with us. It's like it enhances Martin Luther King Day, which I always love. I love that day. And it makes it even more special. So I think of it as Martin Luther King Isabel Day. So welcome. And Isabel isn't feeling quite well this morning, so we want to continue to give her some good energy and um, love and uh, uh, what else? Resilience and equanimity. So, welcome. And I don't have to introduce Isabel. We all know Isabel. So, Isabel, it's all yours.
Thank you, Lynn. And I just want to say, um, this morning I got up. I always get up early, so please do not be alarmed. But it was 4:30 when I woke up, and I do my rituals, my meditation, whatever else I need to do. And into my awareness came that I was also sharing this moment with all of us, with you know, and I sort of like got transported back to when this first started.
Mm.
And how out of that adversity that we were facing, because we were in the midst of COVID. We were all isolated and in our own little bubbles. And this became my refuge. It became my solace. It became a community that even though I wasn't actually touching people, I felt touched by people. And that was quite, this morning, it really came into my heart in a way that was just restorative. And it filled me up with joy. And I don't want this to go unacknowledged. How long this group has been coming together, how long this community have formed a beloved community. And that's kind of like what I wanted to get into today. And you know I come here occasionally, but every time I come here I live with gifts, and I want to thank you all for that. And so today we are celebrating, acknowledging, looking at Dr. King's work, life work of um, social justice. And one of the things that called me, and I send this to Lynn so she can send them to you, but if you didn't hear it, that's okay. I want to go back even before we start to something that Greg said last week, I believe it was. And he said, listen from your heart, with your whole being, with your whole body, and just allow the words to come in or not. And that's okay. So, in some way, giving ourselves permission to be here in this way, and to receive whatever it's meant for us, and whatever it's not, to set it aside to maybe be picked up later. And I want to start today in a very different way. This is um, we, um, a meditation, and let me do a disclosure here. I am not getting paid for this. This is offered freely. I am not getting any financial benefit. So that's a disclosure that I'm offering. And I want to just use this and again allow the words to permeate, to sprinkle down. And if it works for you, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Um, I'm really into practicing non-attachment today. So find a comfortable position for yourself, whatever that is for yourself. And if you can allow your own body to tell you what that position is, that will be even greater. Allow the body to show you what it needs today in a focusing way, and in almost a whole body focusing way. Just allowing, maybe it takes a bit of movement, of just finding, how it's my body, and really pausing and noticing if that's it, it's this the way it is. And the other thing that Greg said last week was, it was a kind of like giving yourself permission to say no. That if something doesn't feel right, to be okay with that. And to just take a moment there to notice and see how is the body today and how it wants to receive this. Does it want to lay down? Does it want to stand up? Does it want to sit? Does it want to put your legs up, right? Just take a moment there. Maybe if it feels okay for you to take a few breath ins, as Thich Nhat Hanh says, to know that you are breathing. And noticing the breath, whether it is shallow, deep, expansive. Does it have a rhythm? And this is an aspiration. It's an invitation around love and kindness. May I be as loving in this moment as possible. If I cannot be loving in this moment, may I be kind. If I cannot be kind, may I be non-judgmental. If I cannot be non-judgmental, may I not cause harm. And if I cannot cause harm, may I cause the least amount of harm possible. And I'm just going to bring that back again. And if it feels okay for you to maybe include someone in this, a dear friend, a benefactor, a companion, may I be as loving in this moment as possible. If I cannot be loving in this moment, may I be kind. If I cannot be kind, may I be non-judgmental. If I cannot be non-judgmental, may I not cause harm. And if I cannot cause harm, may I cause the least amount of harm possible. And at your own pace, whenever you're ready, whenever it feels like you are ready to face the rest of us, come back. And this is directly quoted from a book that is called Awakening Together, the spiritual practice of inclusivity and community. And I really today, my intention is to talk about precisely that, inclusivity, community, and the beloved community in the way in which Dr. King and John Lewis and the movement of nonviolence has talked about it. And so I sent a video for Lynn to share, but I'm going to play a bit of an excerpt of that video. And really just allow yourself to hear the words, and you can go back and watch the whole thing or not watch it at all. But I really want you to just hear those few words. It's going to be maybe about 2 minutes or so. And again, the invitation is to listen from your body, your whole being, your heart. I know for me, the intellect gets in and comparing mind. But if you can set that aside and just receive those words, and I really want to invite you to go back and watch this video. It's not a video, it's more of an audio of Dr. King. And I think that here we are, right? This was 1967, Christmas Eve. And when you listen to this, it almost seems as if it's speaking about today, this moment. And I know for me, there's a bit of despair around that. Because there's part of me that says, oh, we haven't come far. Or we didn't come far enough. And how come this is happening now? But if I sit back and I notice and I take a look, then I can also see that we have come a long way. And this right here, right now, is proof of that. Out of the adversity of COVID, this group came. Out of your generosity of spirit, these groups continue. Out of your desire for beloved community, for connection, for interconnection, these groups continue. Out of the generosity of everyone that shows up here every Monday to offer something, this group continue. And so when I take that lens, then I can have a bit of a breath and be with ease around what's going on, right? And so I'm going to share my screen. And again, just go ahead and notice what you need to do for yourself in order to hear this. And it's only a small snippet. And when you hear Dr. King talking about everything that's going on, if you didn't know that this was 1967, you will be thinking he's talking about today, that he's talking about the migrant workers, that he's talking about the migration of people leaving their countries, that he's talking about what's happening in the Middle East, that he's talking about what's happening in Haiti, that he's talking about what's happening here in the South Bronx, that he's talking about what's happening in California, that he's talking about climate change right now in this moment. And so just notice what happens there, right? And so I'm going to play this this bit of the audio, and it's really just going to be a tiny little bit. We're not going to get all caught up into the conversation of this, you can definitely for sure find it on YouTube. I will send the link to Lynn. You guys have it already, but I know if you're anything like me, sometimes I think I have something, but it's very on the other things. So I would just encourage you to listen to it on your own time again, and maybe listen to it more than once. And I'm going to share this, and I'm going to share the sound, optimize the clip, do all the things that need to be done, and hope and pray. Okay, ready.
And individuals.
Can you hear it?
Yes.
Okay.
We are interdependent. I've mentioned to you before of our visit to India some years ago. It was a marvelous experience. But I say to you this morning that there were those depressing moments. For how can one avoid being depressed when he sees with his own eyes evidences of millions of people going to bed hungry at night? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How can one avoid being depressed when he sees with his own eyes thousands of people sleeping on the sidewalks at night? More than 1 million people sleep on the sidewalks of Bombay, India every night. More than 500,000 sleep on the sidewalks of Calcutta every night. They have no houses to go in. They have no beds to sleep in. As I beheld these conditions, something within me cried out, can we in America stand idly by and not be concerned? And an answer came, oh no. And I started thinking about the fact that right here in our country, we spend millions of dollars every day to store surplus food. Make it plain, make it plain. And I said to myself, I know where we can store that food free of charge. In the wrinkled stomachs of the millions of God's children in Asia and Africa, Latin America, and even in our own nation who go to bed hungry at night. It really boils down to this, that all life is interrelated. We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny, and whatever affects one directly, yes, sir, affects all indirectly. We are made to live together because of the interrelated structure of reality. And did you ever stop to think that you can't leave for your job in the morning?
Just allow yourself to know that he is not in some way talking about today. That this was December 1967. December 1967. 43 years ago. Math is not my forte. But everything he's referring, it's exactly what we are seeing. And there's hope also in that sermon. And that's the part that I want us to come together around. That hope, that interrelatedness, that interconnectedness of us. Lynn and her group, the therapeutic us, right? And I say, we take out of that group and we expand that us into our communities, into our people, into our neighborhoods. And I started by saying, this is a great thing. that we all come here every Monday in our own little boxes. And I really want us to really connect with what he said towards the end. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. We are made to live together because of the interrelated structure of reality. I'll read that again. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. We are made to live together because of the interrelated structure of reality. I love that he doesn't say whatever affects one directly affects some indirectly, or a few, or the ones that live in I don't know where, or the people I don't know. He says all. And then he goes on to say, it is the interrelated structure. It is that interconnectedness. And so I really, the invitation of the exploration that I wanted to bring forward today, it's how can we move out of this small little square and come out and create that beloved community that he talks about. And he talks about it in this sermon, and also John Lewis, I will send that to Lynn as well, talks about it. And Bell Hooks says, if we want a beloved community, we must stand for justice, have recognition for differences without attaching differences to privilege. We can still recognize our differences. So even in our differences, we can still be linked together, right? And Lynn and I have engaged in this conversation that we can and we must listen to each other, even when there are differences, right? And so how do we do that? How do we create this beloved community? How do we continue to cultivate that seed of coming together, of interrelatedness, interconnection, of creating that structure? And so John Lewis say, one of the ways, and it's not only one way, is that when you see something that is not right, you must say something. You must do something. And he says democracy is not a state, it is an act. And each generation must do its part, right? To help build that beloved community. And how appropriate is this? And you know, and he passed away in 2020, I believe. But his work was also around creating that beloved community, that sense of we are in this together. We're not in this alone. We are in this together. And I think that sometimes maybe what comes up, I know it comes up for me, is how much can I give? How much can I do? It's a lot. If everywhere I turn, there's suffering, there's something going on. And we have to find ways to take care of ourselves while we're doing the caring, while we're building the community. And so Audre Lorde says, caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. So we can do both. We can do both. We can care for ourselves, which is what we're doing here right now in this moment, in this community, right? We're caring for ourselves by coming together every Monday, being with like-minded people, listening to things that may motivate us, that may wake up something in us. And I am saying this is not enough. And I'm not saying that people are not doing something. I'm saying this is not enough. We must speak up. And John Lewis also say that we must get in good trouble. Good trouble is, you know, uh, raising a ruckus when you need to, having your voice be heard when you need to, taking other people with you, like Lynn does, to the church on the Martin Luther King Day, right? And then she disguises that as her birthday celebration, and let's have brunch. But it's really a way for Lynn to bring people together around something that maybe we wouldn't come together, right? And it's a way to wake us up to what's going on around us, to hear all the voices. And so really, for me, this place of creating beloved community, John Lewis also says that we need to live as if we already there, right? We can't be thinking, well, in 5 years from now, I'm going to have a beloved community. We're all going to be doing this. It is this moment. It is the now. It is in this moment when we create this community. One of my teachers in my practice of meditation was talking about, she lives in Massachusetts, and she was talking about how in her neighborhood, they housing some of the migrants and the children's and family, and how the neighborhood has come together to bring food and bring clothes and contribute and maybe volunteer one day to, take the kid to school, to give a few hours so the kid could learn English. And so when John Lewis talks about we live as if we are already there, we are already part of that community, of the beloved community. We are already part of that family that wants to create change. And we notice that, and we amplify it, and we bring more people in. And again, if you want a beloved community, we must stand for justice. This thing don't just happen. We have to push it. And I am being totally honest with you. I feel a lot of times like I'm not doing enough. And so my tendency is to lean into the doing and overdo. And then I have to bring myself back with what Audre Lorde said. Caring for myself, it's important too. Because that too, self-preservation, it's also an act of political warfare. If I'm not well, if I don't nourish myself, and we are not nourish ourselves here, right? Then I really can support or create or go forward and support others. So it has to be a balance. And when I first came in, people were sending me love and this and that. And I heard Lynn say, and equanimity, finding a balance that we can do all of this and more finding a balance, not leaning too much one way or too much the other way. And I think that, as Greg said last week, also noticing in our own bodies as individual, how much can we receive? Really stopping. And I think that this is the part of the revolutionary pause, right? Pausing, noticing, and paying attention. And, Dr. King, which is, I think we all aspire that he was very close with Thich Nhat Hanh, and they had a really good relationship. He had a good relationship with a lot of people. It was like, man, this man was just out there creating community and forging relationship and doing all these things. And there's a picture, you can find it in the internet, of him and Thich Nhat Hanh together. And of course, we all know all the work he did with Gandhi and all the work he did with so many other people. And I think that for me, sometimes when I get kind of like, oh, who's doing this work? Who's doing this? And it feels as if I am waiting for the prophet, right? And I am going to say, this piece is from the Buddha. All of us have that in us. We just have to cultivate it. And that's what brings us back to creating the beloved community. The beloved community is us. It's not happening out there somewhere. It's us. And it begins with us. It starts with us. It starts with, as John Lewis say, when you see something that is not right, you must say something. Otherwise, we're silent. Our silence is complicity in some way, right? So I'm going to pause here just to allow some of this to settle. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. We are made to live together because of the interrelated structure of reality. And we need to live as if we're already there in that beloved community. And I don't know what that looks like for each one of you as individual. As a collective, the beloved community for us may look like this. Every Monday at 8:15, we come together and we do the help the helper. But as an individual, it may look something different for you. It may look like, I volunteer at my church, I volunteer at my kids' school, I volunteer at the hospital. I don't know what it looks like for you. And I think that one of the things that we have forgotten when we get caught up in the celebration of Dr. King is that one of the things that he really always encouraged was for us to be of service in some way or another, to bring forward service, that gift of giving, right? And so here's another one from the Buddha. The moment you know how you came to be, or the moment you know how your suffering came to be, really, you are already on the path to the release of it. The moment we know how our individual suffering came to be, we're already on the path to release it. And I think that also applies to the moment we know how the suffering that's going on all around us comes to be, we're already in the path to release it and to work to dissolve it. And, you know, I just want to say that's an individual journey. The beloved community is an individual journey. It is really an act of self-exploration. And so I'm going to pause here, because the other thing about what we are talking about here is that we're talking about creating community that is built in love and peace, engagement, reciprocity also, and interconnectedness. And so sometimes I think that I think that there's a lot of suffering and I cannot see the joy, but that's also joy, right? And I'll tell you what the joy is. So I live in Far Rockaway, and I don't drive, and so I have to take the bus every way out, the train. And yesterday was very, very cold, and we had to go and buy stuff for our little doggies. And some of the migrants are being housed. I don't know if you can call that house. It's just not appropriate to even refer to that as housing, because it's not. They are tents, the kind that you would rent when you're going to have a party in your backyard. And they are Floyd Bennett Field. If you're from New York, you know that used to be an airport. And I believe the Dodgers used to play there. This is years ago. But anyway, this is where they're being housed. And that's maybe 5, 6, I don't know how many huge tents. But here's the joy that I'm talking about. So when the bus stops there, families come in, you know, with their children. Some come, I don't know if they're single, but some are just the one person, but that's a whole bunch of people that gets on there. And yesterday, a family in particular caught my eye. They were Spanish speaking, 2 boys and the mother. And they were sitting together, the 2 boys, probably 8 and 9, I don't know, sitting together on the bus. And they had what is that? The matchbox little cards, you know, the little cards thingy. And they were sitting there, and there was so much joy between those 2 boys, so much joy with those box cards. They were just playing with each other. And when people started to first get in, my heart went to the suffering. That's when my heart went, oh my God. And then when they got in and sat down, and these 2 boys were just being boys, they were just enjoying each other's company, just literally holding each other in play. My heart was just full and revived. And those are the moments that we also have to remember, that along with the suffering, there's also joy. And that the tendency sometimes can be towards the suffering, but that there's also joy. And so that moment filled me for the rest of the journey to whatever they were going, and I was going, right? Because it's quite the long ride on the bus. The entire time they were laughing and playing and just being kids. And that doesn't negate the fact that they are also suffering. Let me just emphasize that. But what it woke up in me is that they also have joy. And that if for me to only see them through the lens of suffering denies one part of their humanity, right? So with that in mind, I don't know, I'm going to read a poem now, and then we'll break up. But, I don't know. Yes.
We will want to have a little discussion of what you have given us. And
Yes.
we have
And they will after this short
after the
poem about happiness, right?
right,
Because we're talking about suffering and how to make a beloved community and create this and everything we see. But I also want us to know that there's joy in what we do and how things are. And then we'll have a discussion, right?
right,
This poem and Christine, after or now, whenever, if you can send it to people. But this poem is by Naomi Shibanaye, and it's called So Much Happiness. It is difficult to know what to do with so much happiness. With sadness, there's something to rub against, a wound to tend with lotion and cloth. When the war falls in around you, you have pieces to pick up, something to hold in your hands, like ticket stub or change. But happiness floats. It doesn't need you to hold it down. It doesn't need anything. Happiness lands on the roof of the next house, singing, and disappears when it wants to. You are happy either way. Even the fact that you once lived in a peaceful tree house and now live over a quarry of noise and dust cannot make you unhappy. Everything has a life of its own. It too could wake up filled with possibilities of coffee cake and ripe peaches, and love even the floor which needs to be swept, the soiled linens and scratched records. Since there's no place large enough to contain so much happiness, you shrug. You raise your hands and it flows out of you into everything you touch. You are not responsible. You take no credit, as the night sky takes no credit for the moon, but continues to hold it and shares it, and in that way be known. We take no credit for happiness. We often only take credit for the suffering. And I'm saying it's both. So here we are. Feedback. What's alive for you? What wants to be known, if anything at all?
I've been thinking in my mind from yesterday how to celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday. Like, this is a new holiday that is kind of, rituals haven't set up in my mind, like what to do for this day. It's a special birthday, you know? Um, and maybe it'll come with time that, you know, he's like a modern day inspiration figure and who gave birth to millions in my mind. But any new turn we take as a whole humanity, it takes a while for every individual to make a meaning for it, I feel. And I'm in the process of like finding, uh, like I said, should I go to church? Should I go to my temple? You know, should I go for a walk in the park? What to do to make this day special? I'm just like thinking and keep that as part of my, oh, today was Martin Luther King's birthday, so we have to do that kind of thing. I don't know if people are thinking like that, but I'm glad that you read this poem about happiness. So I'm going to make that as one of the ingredients of my developing this protocol for myself, you know, as to what to do for Martin Luther King's birthday.
what a wonderful idea, Sashi.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I think you will find that, right? For me, it seems that what's happening for me is that I come here now, right? That wasn't intentional, but it's kind of like it's become the thing. And of course, in my head, there's all kinds of stuff going on. Oh, but maybe I should, maybe someone, and it's just like, no, I'll just go. I'll just go. And it marks my day, and it creates that space for me of connection, right? Because it's really, I can only come when school is closed.
Yeah.
And so it's become that thing. And so marking that and having that sort of like ceremony, because it is in some way ceremonial for me to come here, to be in this community, to be together with you. And so I look forward to that, right? And so maybe I would take a page from your book, Sashi, and I will begin to see or expand on what else can I create on this day to acknowledge Dr. King, right?
I invited some people that will sit and talk about this. I invited some people for lunch. I have no idea what page they're on or if they have any interest, but I thought I would just celebrate it in this way. And we'll talk about something about him. And, there's so much stuff that goes on that it's so hard to say, I'm going to just focus on that today and see if I can make a point of it. I don't.
Can I just say
Yeah.
thank you so much? Because here's the other thing. You can't make change just once. Change is constant. And
Yeah.
all the time we have to come up with new ways of engaging people in conversation about all of these things. And that's the beginning, right? Just coming together, sharing a meal, um, breaking bread, right? That's also ceremonial and ritual. I know I was raised Catholic, and part of the in the Catholic Church, that's the breaking of the bread. It's like a waffle in some places, and sharing that. It's being in communion and community with people. And that's a big thing.
Isabel, I just want to thank you for your presence here today and everything that you've shared. And I have so many thoughts in my mind. So I was so glad when Lynn kind of asked us to pause and just be with whatever was coming up for us. One was about interconnectedness, but first I want to address when you said that the children were playing. So I teach an arts intervention course for social workers, and there's a point where I show a clip of throughout history, it doesn't matter what's happening, children play. They could be at war, they could be, and I showed all these clips where there's this innate thing in us that we need to create, we need to do art, we need to play, we need to experience, even in the most difficult moments, joy, some kind of joy. And so it was beautiful to hear you say that. Also, up here, I'm in upstate New York, so Hudson has a huge community to support the migrants, and it's so beautiful to see their website and in the ways that they create support. And I volunteered. I said I could give 2 hours. I couldn't give more than that, and I could do art stories, and I want people to be able to share their stories. So something where they could, contando nuestras historias, how did they come, what happened, so that those stories are not lost, And also, everything you say brings up the issue for me of belonging. I feel like you could be in community, but if you don't have a sense of belonging, and what creates belonging? Some people belong to a community. They are supported in words and deeds and actions. But if that doesn't happen throughout the community, you're going to see the community kind of come in and out. So how do we create community? We're boxes. But if the boxes are there and not there, like there has to be something. And I'm in a lot of different communities, and I think about the same thing. Do we create community by staying connected? How do we stay connected? What happens when somebody leaves the box? Does anybody check to see if they're okay, that they die? Are they in a hospital? Like, you know, community has to also have a sense of that interconnected belongingness where people care.
You know, thank you.
Mhm.
You know, Lynn knows me enough. This is how my brain works. But you were in my mind yesterday. I'll show you how. Um, so I'm applying to a program, and they have asked to write down books that have been influential. This is the part about connectedness.
Yes.
And you were one of the books that came in, right? My Daughter's Eyes and Other Story. That's sort of like collective narrative, that collective storytelling from
Yes.
families. And I say that, and I say that again. Each one of us has to find the how. The how do we create belonging and connection and a beloved community? And it may take a couple of trials, right? You know, I used to identify myself as a seeker because I was always seeking, where did I belong? And that is a very individual process. Where do I belong? And not only do I ask where do I belong, but I also ask who belongs with me, right? Because it's not just where do I fit, but who else fits with me? And so we all have our tribes,
Yes.
and we just have to find them.
It's true.
But thank you so much. And I just want to say, Anisha, that the other thing around the migrant is that if we hear it's how angry people are, we don't hear those stories of how many people are also supportive and caring and
Oh,
loving.
yes. Yes. I
Those,
think,
those other stories then get wiped out.
yeah, I agree.
And that's the other piece about bringing forward also those narrative, those story of people who are contributing and doing different things, you know, at whatever capacity it is that they doing it.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that forward.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mm.
Maybe now might be a good time for us to go into our breakout rooms, but is there anybody who hasn't gotten to say what they would like to say before we have our small groups?
Is Roberta Hannes?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Isabel, for everything that you've put forward today. I just wanted to go back to this idea that we don't have to ask, how do we create a connection or a relationship to this all? Because it's already happening. This is the interrelated structure of reality, as you put it. It isn't something you wake up and say, how can I make this work today or have this happen? It's already happening. It's happening right here in this moment with all of us, and it will always be happening. You can't start it or stop it. So the delusion, as Einstein calls it, our optical delusion, we think we're separate. You know, we walk around believing that we're not in this together. And that is that's kind of our wake-up call, you know, that we have. So it's wonderful that we celebrate Martin Luther King because of his work and Thich Nhat Hanh's work of interbeing and interrelatedness and all of the we are, you know, and that's what this day is really about, is to kind of wake up from our sense of delusion. You know, so I just want to put that out. I'm always trying to figure out, well, if I remember that I already belong.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mhm.
It isn't something I have to figure out where I belong or what tribe I'm gonna join or what group I think I'm part of and not part. It's all just like, that's just mental. You're not, it's not what's going on actually.
Right.
So,
Yeah, yeah. And Roberta, that's exactly what John Lewis is saying. You live as if you're already there. And he's talking about the beloved community, that you're already there in that community, in that sense of family, in that sort of like in that house. And he says, and you visualizes. And I know people don't talk about faith, right? But he also says, and you have faith that it already is a beloved community, that you already in it. Yeah.
Yeah, can I just kind of say, Roberta made me think of something that's more cultural, I think. So I know where I have a sense of belonging. And I think culturally, for me, Roberta, it's about if you live near me, I see you in this box, but
Mhm.
can I call you and we could go for coffee? For me, it goes beyond this moment, it goes outside. I'm in a lot of communities where we're in the community in that present moment, and I'll feel I belong there. But for me, culturally, belonging goes outside. Can I stay connected? Can we connect? If you don't see me for a month, can you touch base with me? Like it's a connection outside of these boxes. And so yeah, and it's about being seen too. Like it's just something that I've been thinking in terms of connection. And because in New York City, there's so much loneliness, and I do so much work with that and what it means to belong and to be able to be open to some people do have a privilege of belonging wherever they go. They just sense the ground, I belong. But that doesn't go for everyone, especially if you're a person of color. It takes a while to sense yourself and belonging in a place. It's just a different cultural perspective, and I think experience for different people.
Jane, were you gonna say something? I sort of saw your hand moving.
No, it's all right.
No, I think a lot though. Thank you, Isabel. Yeah, I've been very moved I came here today. I don't get here very often. It's a bit early. But I came here today because I knew you were going to be here. And I thought I needed to be here today with you. Your story about the children on the bus. We have a respite center for migrants, for the new migrants. And I see all the time, every week, it's usually Monday, it's not today, that the joy of particularly of the children that just run around and have a place where they can run and feel safe. And the mothers, mostly mothers and some dads, come and they just are happy to be sitting in a quiet place that's safe and where they can talk to each other and they get their needs met. And a woman named Mariposa, I need to acknowledge her because she's amazing. And she brings them there. And anyway, it's inspiring to see that and for you to talk about it and to talk about John Lewis, who was extraordinary, was. So thank you. I'm going to have to leave, but
Thank you. June, I saw you unmuted.
That's all
I'm
right.
not sure.
That's
I'm
all right.
not sure if you wanted to bring something forward.
No, I can wait. Thank you.
I want to make an invitation as you move into sharing in dyads or triads or whatever way. And that is I think that it might have been oh my God, now everybody move and some people, but I think it might have been Shashi that say this. You may want to go in there and explore not so much what to do. Because sometimes we get caught up in the doing. And I don't know, Jane, if this is the piece that you're talking about, and also you, Roberta, that the communities are already created. But can we talk about how can we be in this moment in a way that creates belonging, that creates connection, and see beyond the suffering, because there is a lot of suffering, but there's also joy that's happening, right? For some of the people, to have left a place where their life were in danger, right? How do we be balanced? And you can just talk about whatever. The weather may be a good one today. So it's 9:20. Is this the time when we go on the break?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Okay.
I could go on, I will go in the breakout with
Good.
someone.
Hi, welcome everybody. So, we need a minute to make that transition from one community to another community. And I'm eager to hear what occurred in your beloved breakout community.
Belong was one of our subjects, belonging,
Yes.
a feeling as though we belong. And how do we get there if we don't feel that way?
Yes. And was there anything that struck you about that, of how we get there when we don't feel that way?
Well, I made a comment, an observation that if we invite others, that's a step in our own belonging.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
But there were other good suggestions too, so I encourage my other partners to say something about it.
Good. Isabel, you look so happy.
I am happy because Monica was in this group and we have interacted a couple of times together, and so was Rachel. And Rachel and I see each other on Wednesday evening, every other Wednesday, but it was just so sweet to have two people, random, just come in, who are people who I've been in relationship with in some other way, shape, or form. And so that speaks to the interconnectedness. It really affirms that whether we know it or not, we are connected. And I think that's what, Roberta, what you were alluding to. We don't need to find out the how. We just know that it's happening and we trust that it is. Thank you.
What was coming for me, and with Isabel's, lead on Martin Luther King and belonging, I think there is some new way to go about approaching belonging or something, and just starting to consider this idea, like being a Black man during the civil rights movement, how much less belonging can you feel in this inhospitable country that it is directing so much hatred towards you. And the way that I think for so long, I feel like I have belonging fatigue from sort of going about it like, hi, are you my mother? Are you my mother? Can I fit in here? Can I fit in here? My ex-husband, I would come home crying from groups trying to fit in. And he's like, you don't have to go to like a Hell's Angel group and try to fit in. And I was like, oh, he made a good point. We still got divorced. but I digress. But it's like with Martin Luther King having some deep connection to purpose and love from within, which I imagine really hearing him speak, hearing his words, there's this grounded love to fellow man and to what we can be and to God, you know, whatever that is for everybody. And that connection then seems to lead to purpose. And the purpose seems a way of belonging. Like Lynn, you had said, you know, we claim our place at the table. We don't have to cajole or wait to be invited or ask permission. There's something about if there's a purpose, even if your purpose is to feed the people at the table or to set the table, there's an implicit belonging, but there's something about that drive to do for your community, your God, your earth, that I think that brings that implicit sense. It implies belonging, whether you happen to be experiencing a welcoming belonging or not, a welcoming invitation to be embraced by a particular group.
Yes, absolutely. I had the experience the other day of a kind of hectic day, and I went to the coffee shop to get some coffee, and sat down for a minute, and this young man sitting next to me smiled at me and started to chat with me, and I forgot all about the hecticness and just so enjoyed the conversation with someone from my neighborhood. And then yesterday he texted me saying, I'm going to the coffee house to get coffee. Would you like to come and chat with me? We had this wonderful conversation. He's from a young guy in tech stuff from Pakistan, and I'm you know who I am. And we had so much in common. It was amazing. So I think my point is that sometimes even when we are not thinking about belonging, we can be receptive to somebody else in subtle ways reaching out to us and take the invitation.
I just kind of I always feel a need to, when someone has finished talking, to sort of say, I hear you, Lynn, you know. So it's just really to acknowledge or receive what you've said, you know, without even needing to. Hi, Isabel, and thank you for your reflection on Martin Luther King Day. I actually listened to the video just before I came on, and I was struck by how clear his language was. He was talking about food. He was talking about, there was no political, there was no fudging the needs, you know. And in that way, I'm sort of really heartened as well by your invitation to, when I'm not feeling so loving, maybe I can do it with kindness. When I don't feel kindness, I can so it's like really soften my what I want to sort of share, just soften it, you know, so that at least be kind, that I'm adding to the resonance, or that I'm part of the solution of communication. So I think that's kind of a beginning to hear my own voice in relation to others. I couldn't find it in the big group because I felt it was I didn't know how to respond in the big group to what was being said. But I can when I see people, you know, say, hi, Isabel, hi, Lynn, hi, Natty, you know, and then I belong because I brought myself here, and, you know, and I belong to myself at least in that. So it's the gentleness, fitting in, pouring out, and belonging and relating. So yeah. So I think that the suffering in the world is a lot more complex, and we have an awful lot of the answers. And I'd like to be part of a group that would find how to harness those answers, or even share opinions, because belonging, my understanding of it is, it's an adolescent need. We already belong.
Mhm.
We already
Um,
belong.
I
So that's it. I maybe just to break my own silence in that. So thank you.
yeah, thank you. I'm putting something in the chat. If you get a chance, listen to that interview of John Lewis with Kristen Tippett. It is just stunning. And what I love, and this is what I'm saying, so nothing that we see now is unprecedented. It has happened before. This is just human nature cycling through suffering, right? But what it's stunning for me and fill me with hope, me as an individual, is that I think we now have more tools that we can lean into to impact change, whether it is in social media. I have a friend that always send me like a little voice note, and he loves to take pictures of flower. And every day he sends a flower and a voice note with some inspiration. And that makes my day. So in his own way, he's creating beloved community because I feel connected to him at that moment. So we all have to find our way to create that and to bring that forward. And I think it's possible. It is possible in this lifetime for us.
I think it's time for Dorothy to read our closing poem. And Isabel, thank you so much. It's been really wonderful to all of us to be together.
Thank you. Yeah, Isabel had two poems today, and we just decided, oh, they're both so beautiful. We'll do both poems. And this is the same author, Naomi Shabab Nae. And I believe you said she's Palestinian. Is that right? Um, kindness. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment, like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all the smoke must go, so you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. How you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the window forever before you learn the tender gravity of kindness. You must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you, how he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows, and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out into the day to gaze at bread. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, it is I you have been looking for, and then goes with you everywhere, like a shadow or a friend.
Wow. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week, everybody.